All right, let's go ahead and get started today. Thank you everybody for coming out. Um, Today we are going to talk about post-exit surveys. We've actually, Alex and I have hit this over the last, honestly, month pretty hard. As We have reported our numbers for this last year, and while they were okay and good, we're not quite hitting the targets that we're wanting to hit. And so, between our data matching that we are currently doing and enhancing some of that ability, we want to be able to make sure that these post-exit surveys are also being done for the students that who are not able to data match. So we're going to talk about exactly how to use the system, and then as people are using that system, we want to make sure that Alex and I are doing any sort of upgrades and enhancements for that page to make it easier and better for us as we do continue to go on. So let's talk data maintenance quick. We always talk about this when we're at the beginning. First question is always, have you logged into UASys to enter data? We are seeing numbers increase, so it's telling me that programs are entering data on a timely manner. Um, Remember that the timely manner is every 2 weeks, so make sure that you are entering the data. If you are running into any sort of issues, please let us know. We can help work that out, login issues, those kind of things. Have you set an entering EFL for all of your students? Remember, you can run the pre-test report for that to kind of see exactly which students need entering EFLs for the program year or for their period of participation. And the last one is, how are you on your post-exit surveys? We're going to go over the post-exit surveys follow-up call today. See exactly how to use that page, and then we'll go from there. But we're going to keep that on for this year to kind of, how are you doing on it? Throughout these next couple of years, at least through this year and next year, Alex and I are going to run different reports for post-exit surveys, seeing how many are being done, that kind of information. So we are looking into enhancing that when we come out to like program reviews and some of the reports that we are putting into the system. So if you haven't been to our post-exit follow-up survey page, this is what it looks like when you have selected everything. When you first log into this page, the only option that you have is that top follow-up quarter. It's a drop-down that will list different quarters that we are reporting on or have yet to report on. To get to this page, once you log into UASys, you will click on Program, and then you will click on the third tab up at the top, the Post-Exit Follow-Up. For those that are watching this afterwards, if you don't have the permission to see this, this is permission-based. You will need to talk to your admins to get access to that. All of our directors and our data admins should by default have access to this, as I've given them all that access. But if you are assigned to do this and you do not have that, it is permission-based. Please talk with your admins, and they will get you assigned to that. So when you click on the drop-down quarter up, this will list the quarter in which the student's period of participation has ended. The earliest quarter that you will see on this drop-down list is the earliest that we are reporting on Table 5 for this program year. And then it goes up from there until your most recent quarter that you can follow up on. So since we are in the beginnings of October of 2025, you will actually see not last quarter, but the quarter before on the earliest that you can follow up, is those are students that you can follow up with their first quarter of exit. You'll just need to select the ones. I recommend selecting your oldest quarters first, your oldest 6 quarters, as those are the ones that we are targeting for Table 5 for this program year. Once you have selected a quarter, you will have a drop-down of follow-up students along with these 2 options. These are 2 checkboxes to kind of help filter out students. The first one is to remove students with an SSN. And the second one is to remove students who have marked that they can data match. Now, these are useful when you are working with your more recent quarters. So students that are in your first, second, third quarter for exit follow-ups, or who have exited within the last year. Older students, I have already attempted to do any of these post-exit surveys, employment or post-secondary. So by default, I would usually recommend programs leave these alone so that you see all of your list of students. Once you start removing some of these, it may get confusing. Um, I have, with your oldest quarters, for example, I have already attempted to try to data match all of their information. So if I have successfully data matched them, you will see a followed up little smiley face. If I have not been able to data match them, whether they're not in the system or whether they don't have a social security number or they have marked that they can't data match, you will see a yes, no option for those students. So when you use these check marks, use them sparingly. Use them for your more recent quarters, but for your older quarters, please leave them unchecked so that you do see all your list of students. The next drop down is your list of students. These are students who have exited within the quarter that you have selected. That does show the student's ID in parentheses right next to the student's name. And then in the brackets, it will show you a number. And this is the number of follow-up records that are associated to the student. So when you make a phone call, you would add a follow-up record to the student. And those will be calculated there. The big reason we've added this is so that if there are multiple or users within your program that are trying to follow up with students, it doesn't have to be a communication about who you left off on. So I could go through and start calling students, making follow-up logs, whether I've successfully contacted them or not. I mark the follow-up logs and then I get pulled away from something else. Alex could jump into the same page at a later that day at a later date, and she could see exactly which student I have left out on due to those follow-up records. So she can go down through, find my first zero if this is the first time I'm going through these follow-up records, and then she can start from there and work your way down. So do keep an eye on those follow-up records, as they will help you kind of identify which students have and haven't been contacted and that kind of information. This next little section is just kind of more information about the student. There is a prompt that we have added there, and we can always kind of modify and upgrade this prompt as we are going through, as you find what's useful and what's not. You do not have to use this prompt. This prompt is simply there to kind of get you started or get your users started. You guys know these students better than I do. So I'm really just kind of giving a basic generic, this is who I am in the program, this is why I'm calling. But you may know, John Smith, for example, and you know some historical stuff. Did they have a job? Did they have kids? You could follow up on information and just have a conversation with them. Um, so you don't have to use the prompt. It's kind of up to you. Um, Next on that is your call time. That's just the timestamp on which you made the call. And really, it's kind of the timestamp that this page was loaded. So do keep that in mind as you do go through. You do have the student's phone number and the student's email address are the next two. Both of these are click to copy, meaning that if I see their phone number there, I can click on that phone number and say, for example, I use Teams or I use a computer service to make that call. I can paste it in on my computer service in order to make that call. Same thing with the email address. I can click the email address and paste it in if I wanted to follow up that way. So that way there's no concern about misspelling or mistyping or things like that. But both of those are click to copy. Uh, is there a question? Um, the next one is the period of participation dates. Remember that a period of participation can last over multiple programs and can last over multiple years. So these dates let you know when the student started or when the student ended. So it gives you kind of both of those dates so that you can kind of put in perspective how long ago the student has been with you, that kind of information. If you need to see specific details about the student, did they graduate? Are they an ESL student, an ABE student? What was the testing like? You can click on that See Students Profile, and that will take you to the student's homepage, and you'll have access to all this information that you do for a separated student. So that is information that just kind of lets you know who the student is and information about them. The next section is all about collecting the post-exit achievements. So remember, we collect the employment first quarter through fourth quarter. So every quarter for the first year after the student leaves. And then we also collect the post-secondary information. So whether they've enrolled in post-secondary and or whether they got a credential. The dates on there are the time ranges in which we are looking for. So when you see in this example, we see that the student exited on October 8th, 2024. Their first quarter after they exited would be between January 1st and March 31st of 2025. That's the date range that I'm looking to see if they had an employment. Now, employment in the quarter does not have to be all of the quarter, a majority of the quarter. It simply needs to happen at some point during that quarter. They could have a job on March 31st and mark that, yes, they had a job during that quarter. So they just need to have a job at some point during that quarter in order for a yes to be marked. If they've identified that they did not have a job during that time period, you click and answer no and hit save. The only one that is a little bit unique and different is our employment in second quarter. NRS requires us to collect wage earnings on our second quarter to see what they are within that first 6 months within that they left us. And so when you click yes on the employment in second quarter, you are asked for a second quarter earnings. There is a little calculator button that you can click, and then the pop-up on the left drops down. You can enter this per hour, per week, per every 2 weeks, or bi-weekly, or per month, and then the calculation automatically happens. So if I had the student, they answered yes on this, and I click the little calculator, and they give me that they earned, say they earned $23 per hour, and they work 25 hours per week. In this case, I can put $23 for the hourly wage. I can put 23 or 25 hours per week and hit calculate, and that will calculate the number or approximately their quarterly earnings for that quarter. If they know right off the top of their head, you can also enter that in there without having to go into the calculator. That is okay. We do understand that sometimes students are unwilling to give us these quarterly amounts, and we do understand that sometimes that's a little personal. If they do refuse to give us that information, NRS has asked us to put $1 in for that quarter. So you just highlight that 0, turn it into a 1, and go ahead and hit save. That's how we report those students that refuse to give us their calculated earnings for the second quarter. Going back to the page, you will see potential yeses and nos that are grayed out. If the no is grayed out, that means we are still in that quarter. At the time that the screenshot was taken, we were still in the middle of that third quarter. You cannot answer no until that quarter is completed because a student could still potentially have a job by the end of that quarter. If the yes and no are both grayed out, that quarter has not yet happened. Do not ask about those quarters. We are going to go through and do a minor upgrade on this piece as well. We're actually going to hide those options if they are not available at the time, and we'll state why a no is not an option or why you can't select yes or no yet. So that is an upgrade that we do have coming in the upcoming future. So do keep an eye out for that, as some of those options may disappear. The follow-up records on the side lets you add records on that you attempted to follow up or not. If you successfully followed up with a student that you marked yes, for example, on employment first quarter and hit save, a follow-up record automatically gets added as a successful call. It timestamps it for you and marks it that it was successful, and you'll see a record show up there. You'll also see in the drop-down option that the follow-up records in the bracket will automatically increase to 1. If there is a no, or you are unable to add or to follow up with the student, you will have to select the reason. Now, this is what the follow-up drop or pop-up box looks like. So pretty simple, pretty easy question. So first is the follow-up outcome, whether they answered, whether they answered and refused, whether you wanted them to call back. There are about 5 or 6 different reasons on a follow-up outcome. And then you can make any sort of notes that you want. So if they answered but refused, you could make a note. If they said, hey, call back at a later time, you can put the notes in there and that date and time to call back later, and then you can follow up with that student. All of these have note options, so you can add any sort of notes in there that you would like. But these records are crucial for allowing us to see that, yes, these phone calls are being happening. It also allows you at the program level to see exactly who and who has not been followed up with. So it is important to make sure that these follow-up records do get entered, even if they were unsuccessful. Are there any questions? I saw one just came into the chat. When you upgrade this, can you make it so that if we, yes. So one of the upgrades that has not been added yet is that there's not really a great way to see who needs to have a callback or not, and especially on the date and times. Like I would like to add an upgrade that says, okay, show me everybody that wants me to call today, that's 16th, or who wants me to call tomorrow, and especially what times to call at. We don't have anything like that in the system, is I didn't have data to make sure that that was happening really, really well. I've got better data in now, and so I can do some of those upgrades. But yes, I will make sure that the upgrade gets put in to where you can see who needs to be called back. I'm thinking even adding an additional quarter that is simply like a a callback quarter, so that you can see those that you successfully contacted but said, hey, I just can't talk right now. That way it doesn't matter which quarter they fell into, because you always have those dates and times um, on when the student attended and which quarters that you do need. So I am looking to make an upgrade about that. That is a good question. Thank you. Are there any other questions about this? Okay. If you guys have any follow-ups about questions, how does this relate to Table 5, upgrades that you would like to see on this as you do start to use that, please send us a message. We are always looking to make upgrades into this, making sure that it's useful for your guys' needs. Again, this is your guys' system, so we do want to make sure that everything is working the way you want it to be. Couple of the other upgrades that I'll let you know that are going to be coming is we would like to get an email to where you can blast emails out to the students to let them know that, hey, either we're going to be calling, or hey, click on this link and you can go. We need this data info filled out. We are waiting for the student portal to come online before we can do some of those additional upgrades. But we are looking about doing some additional upgrades that do make it easier, so you don't have to make as many phone calls, but you can send out emails and different things like that to the students to collect that information. So those are a couple of additional upgrades that we're looking at probably over the next year. They're not going to be as quick because we are waiting on some additional other pieces to line up as we do that. So thank you guys for coming today. If you've got any additional questions, please shoot us a message. Otherwise, we will see you guys next month. Thanks, guys.